Welcome to another segment of A Forest Without Trees, sponsored by the Central Sierra Historical Society. Today we're going to talk to Steve Bird, wildlife biologist with Southern California Edison Company. Steve is going to talk about the long-term effects on the wildlife as a result of all the trees that have died because of the insect infestation. He will also touch on the effects of this infestation on wildfire, and he will discuss on the losses of products that we humans use for building our homes and other infrastructure.
Steve, as a wildlife biologist, do you feel that this natural disaster was something that was predictable, or did it catch you totally off guard?
No, it was totally predictable. I've had friends that maybe were older foresters or biologists that predicted this, that this could come about at some point. Back in 2000 in Southern California, the Lake Arrowhead area experienced a very similar situation. Historically, Arrowhead had about 80 trees per acre. Now they're sitting at 600 trees per acre. All trees were drought stressed. We went into a slight drought. Bark beetles took off, killed 400 million board feet. That was in 2000 in California. Here we are, 2015. The Sierra around Shaver Lake historically had about 100, 120 trees per acre. Now most national forest lands are sitting at 600, 800 trees per acre. We lost hundreds of millions of board feet. And people like to try and blame the drought, or they blame the evil bark beetle, or something like that. But really, we could control stems per acre out on our forest. We could have taken that forest back to a more natural setting. Bark beetles are natural and normal. Them killing a few trees is natural and normal, really scattered out across the forest. But the size and scope of the mortality that we're seeing right now is disastrous, and there's nothing natural about it. Well, there could be short-term, long-term impacts. I'll talk about long-term impacts a little bit to species in the area, and there's so many. Let's just concentrate on large raptors like owls, eagles, things like that. These are all birds that need to nest up in larger trees. And these larger trees in our forest canopies are the ones that are being killed by the bark beetle. And so there's going to be all kinds of large snags available in the short term, but in the long term, in 10 years, all those big trees are going to be laying on the ground. Now, how does a big tree laying on the ground help a spotted owl or a bald eagle or an osprey? It doesn't help them at all. So we're going to be reverting back to a forest that is very young, that has very low canopy covers, and those potential nest sites in big trees are going to be very scarce. I don't see any positive long-term impacts coming as a result of massive pine die-off in our forest. I think they're all going to be negative wildlife impacts. Like Jeff was talking about woodpeckers. Okay, so woodpecker populations, they go up a little bit for the first 5 to 10 years. But then when we lose all of our mature pines, and they are all laying on the ground or burned up in a fire, now what are our woodpecker populations going to do from year 10 to year 50? They're going to be terrible.
How does this compare to other natural disasters?
It's comparable to other natural disasters. Other natural disasters like the Rim Fire, which was California's largest fire. It was about 230,000 acres in size, total destruction of wildlife and forest habitat. It's going to cover all of Fresno County, much of Madera County. It's going to impact a great deal of the Sierra National Forest, a good portion of the Sequoia National Forest, Yosemite National Park. They're all going to be terribly impacted by this. The one thing that I hope people understand throughout this process of our forests having massive die-off with bark beetle is that it was a problem that could have been avoided if we had have done a better job at managing our forests over the past 50 years. We would not have needed to go through this situation in the Sierra. And so I hope that we can learn from our mistakes in the past, because no one on the planet can manage forests or wildlife populations as well as we can in America. If we can just learn from our mistakes and move forward. We can't fix the Sierra now. It's broken. Now we've just got to clean up and get it on a path of recovery as fast as we can, so we can once again have mature, large pines back out in our forest.